Thanks very much for that, Arabile. Well, Athletics South Africa is set to appeal the judgment of the Court of Arbitration for Sport in favour of the IAAF's regulations to force female athletes with higher testosterone levels to take medication to lower their levels in order to compete. It will lodge its papers within the prescribed and stipulated period. And for more on this story, I'm joined in studio by our SABC Deputy Sports Editor, Janet Whitton. Thanks very much for joining us, Janet. So they're going ahead with this appeal. What's the likelihood of success?
You know, it's very difficult to know. The Court of Arbitration for Sport decision was actually a majority decision, 2-1 in favour of the IAAF. And part of this appeal that the IAAF is going to lodge with the Swiss Federal Court, which is the court that they have to go to next, is for the recusal of those two judges who they say are conflicted because they were also involved in the earlier case against Dutee Chand, who was an Indian sprinter who was involved in a very similar case as this one, and the one that actually led to the whole 2-year-long investigation that the IAAF undertook. They are appealing on a number of decisions. First of all, they don't believe that medically or legally that the Court of Arbitration for Sport could have reasonably come to this decision. So it is a simple legal challenge on a certain level, but they're also adding a third factor to it and saying that it is almost impossible for the IAAF to actually implement this with any kind of safety because the medication hasn't been tested for use in this kind of way before. The statement actually came from the Department of Sport, who are taking a number of steps other than supporting the ASA in this.
Janet, I wanted to ask you, about the practicality of it, because the rules have kicked in now, haven't they?
They have.
So if they've kicked in and then you've got a world medical body coming out and saying, guys, don't adhere to the rules that have been endorsed by the Court of Arbitration of Sport, then how does it work in practice?
In practice, the IAAF's defence against that argument is that they are not forcing anybody to take it. They're just saying, this is what you have to do in order to compete. If you don't want to take the medication, then don't compete, or else compete in either a sprint shorter than 400 meters or a middle distance that's longer than a mile in order to compete. That's their argument. There are a lot of people who don't accept that as an argument, because you effectively, anybody who runs the kind of distances that Caster Semenya runs is 8 and 1500. Caster is exceptional in that she can also run 400, but somebody who runs those kind of distances can't just switch to 5,000 or to 200, which is what they're asking them to do. So it doesn't really work.
Do you think it was adding insult to injury when we learned last week or so that the IAAF says that Caster can now compete with men if she wants to?
Sometimes I think somebody needs to get hold of the PR people at the IAAF, because I thought it was an extraordinary callous and insensitive kind of statement to make. It's the kind of statement that has been made by some media organisations, particularly in the UK, over the last 10 years, in which this case has been going on since Caster's first hit the international headlines. And I think it's an extraordinarily callous statement to make. And I think it's actually going to count against them. I really do. I think because it's the argument has been all along that this is sexist and racist, and it's targeted at Caster. Certainly that last argument is going to be given a little bit of extra emphasis by that kind of statement.
So in the meantime, while appeals are being made, the rules are already in. Caster will have to basically adhere to those rules if she wants to compete in the meantime.
She will. She will be able to compete in certain events at home and in sub-Saharan Africa. It is only the events that the IAAF has jurisdiction over. Those are all the major international events. It's the Diamond League. It's all the international events. It's obviously the World Championships, and it's the Continental Championships that she won't be able to compete in. She will be able to compete in smaller races and races at home in the meantime, because we're fairly certain that Caster never even considered taking that medication. She's taken medication once before to her detriment, and she's not going to do it again. Okay, Janet, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much. Janet Whitton, she's our Deputy Sports Editor. Those were your news headlines. Your market news coming up with Arabile after a short break.